Good morning to our respected teacher, Mr. Andrew Wang. Today we are going to give a short presentation on auditors and legal liability. There are altogether 6 members in our group. Introducing myself, my name is Nupur Parazuli and my student ID is RI82469.
Hi, I am Tuladar Bhashrai and my student ID is GUD2588.
Hi, my name is Poojan Acharya and my student ID is ESV22908.
Hi, my name is Manita Purasani and my student ID is KTM2116.
Hello, I am Anup Patel and my student ID is GV2595.
My name is Avinash Pokhrel and my student ID is BBS2236.
Hi, I'm going to discuss about the case that we have already submitted the assignment as in a Word copy, and we're discussing the introduction. That is the price of the PwC, how the PwC is sued by the company, and here PwC is one of the biggest audit firm, which main headquarters is located in London, and how the PwC is sued by the company. And by the Tyco International company, and how much penalty that PwC paid to the Tyco International is going to discuss in this case. And it was fined due to the professional negligence of the auditors that of the PwC, and the main reason of the fraud is the former chief executive who overstated the income by certain amount and by offsetting money as a bonus. And as well as the former CEO saved the sales without any company policies and without any company procedures. And to prevent the legal and unexpected events, all related should perform the responsibility. And next one is examining the financial scandal, and here we are going to discuss about how the company faced this kind of scandals and what is the reason that auditors are sued by the financial scandal. In this company, Tyco International is being audited by the PwC, which is the biggest firm, I already told, and the auditor do the massive in this case, the auditor do the massive mistake, that is that it doesn't include the it missed the fraud done by the CEO. And here auditors and company being audited should provide reliable data and information to avoid financial scandal and fair report. And Tyco International sued against PwC for its professional negligence for the audit in the financial statement, and the shareholders blame the PwC that they failed to find out massive accounting fraud, which was done by the former chief executive. And next is payment to PwC was done in the legal way, that is what the PwC need, and as per the service provided to the Tyco International, it was legal. And Tyco agreed to pay $2.95 billion to its shareholders to settle the legal action, but later on it is found that the former chief executive officer Dennis was liable to engage in such an accounting fraud and doing overstating of the income, as well as selling the shares of $430 million, and granted $60 million for the executive without following any company policies, any company procedures, and without any meeting conducted. So it is the major thing which caused the financial scandal to the company. And however, after 4 years legal agreement, the shareholders, PwC, the auditing firm, need to settle to provide by paying $225 million to the shareholders of the Tyco International. And from 2003 onwards, PwC was banned to conduct any kind of audit program of the Tyco International because of the big mistake and the things missed by the auditors. Thank you for my part, and I want to call Poojan for the presentation.
Thank you, Tuladar. As Tuladar has already mentioned about the parties involved in this case, I would like to further describe about the responsible parties that have been involved in this case, directly or indirectly. So the main responsible party accused of fraud and error is the auditor, PwC. Fraud is fraud is wrongful or criminal deception intended to result in financial or personal gain. The former chief executive Dennis of Tyco International did the fraud of 5.8 billion by earning management, and this income was earned by overstating. The third point of this presentation is that the shareholders of Tyco International was misled by inappropriate information. PwC, which was Tyco's auditor, was in position to have uncovered the fraud and to prevent damages to Tyco's shareholders, according to the suit. The fourth is the main culpability goes to the former executive Dennis Kozlowski. Dennis Kozlowski has been held main responsible who did an accounting malfunction in income, falsifying business records, and conspiracy for the roles in the company's accounting scandal. So the 3.2 part is penalty and its appropriateness. PwC has to pay Tyco investors $225 million to settle shareholders' claim for not uncovering the $5.8 billion in accounting overstatements by Tyco International Limited. The fraud here is the overstatement of income. The court ordered Tyco to pay $299 million, but they got rejected by the court. The penalty or damage could have been higher to meet up the loss incurred by the shareholders. Thank you, and I'd like to call Audit.
So my topic is relevant issues in auditing and accounting. So first one is relevant issues relating to auditing. Detecting and preventing fraud in financial statements should be the main concern of auditors. If any information or amount or transaction is intentionally reported by false representation or is concealed to get another opportunity from another way, then it is called fraud. So it is auditor's duty to detect any fraud prevailing in the financial statements that can mislead the stockholders of the organization being audited. For Tyco International, in this case, it was a primary role for the auditors of PwC to detect whether there is any fraud done by any party of the organization. But the auditors failed to identify a fraud of $5.8 billion done by the former executive. The auditing standards directs the audit firm to assure high level of assurance about the true and fair presentation of the financial statement. Auditing standards also state that the auditors have the responsibility to plan and perform the audit in such a way so that they can obtain a reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are free from the material misstatements. Another relevant issue is issues in accounting. So the accounting issues are also getting worse by worse. Applying accounting principles to the real world is another issue. The fraud is usually done by the accounting manipulation. Accounting figures can be overstated, understated, or concealed to fulfill purpose of the management. Expenses can be overstated so that net income decreases and thus tax liability reduces. Income can be overstated to show a healthy form of the organization so that the investors or shareholders become satisfied and invest more in the organization. Now next, our root causes will be discussed by Nipur. Thank you.
So one of the main root cause of this issue is fraud, which can be done for personal gain, meeting of organizational goals, showing well in the market, or for the pressure of the management. First of all, we have is the market pressure. For the survival of any market, organizations need to show healthy conditions of their financial statements. For doing this, they take the opportunity of manipulating their accounting information so that the shareholders are pleased and invest more in the organization. Similarly, for the Tyco International, The former chief executive overstated the income so that it shows healthy condition of the organization, though it did not earn that much income. Secondly, we have is the organizational culture. Organizational culture means some organizations use misinformation to attract the investors or shareholders. But for Tyco International, it is not a cultural habit to mislead the stakeholders with false information, as because its history does not say so. Last but not the least is the fraud. As mentioned before, the root cause of this issue is fraud, whether by management itself or by the audit firms. Fraud is usually done by recognizing improper expense, valuing asset incorrectly, hiding liability, and giving unsuitable disclosures. The management of Tyco overstated the income than it is in real scenario, because of which PwC was fined by the court to pay the shareholders approximately $225 million because the auditor was unable to identify the massive fraud. Now moving on to Anup Karel.
Thank you. Thank you, Nobu. And my next topic is I'm going to present about the representation by defendants, judgment, and awarding the damages. The first point is PwC's concession will combine the all-out settlement to more than $3.2 billion. And the second point is the expense of that resistance and the extent of the securities class activities settled on the settlement, the reasonable decision for the firm. And the third point is the mistrial came similarly, as certain attendants said the gathering was very nearly sentencing the litigants for probably the most junior criminal delegation while absolving them of others. And the last point is the Manhattan's District Attorney's Office retired the case where the Danish and Schwartz were accused $600 million through theft from the company and the manipulation of its book. Now I'd like to call my next friend Avinash Pokhrel.
Thanks, Anu. So the presentation has already been very long than expected. So we'll just quickly go through all these recommendations and improvements that we have jotted down. Talking about the recommendations. Now, what can we do for a certain large firm like PwC, even if they are accused and then they are sued in the market, right? Yeah, but still we can focus on some of the basic stuff as well. The first and foremost things that we have jotted down is the relationship between the regulatory authorities, shareholders, auditors, and the managers. It should always be regulated. It should always be monitored. What kind of prevailing healthy relationship do we have in between the shareholders, managements, and the auditors or not? Because that's going to be super important in controlling any kind of frauds or errors in an organization. And also, like auditing reforms may be amended or improved with the lapse of the time as per the need and requirement of the time. So it should always be flexible enough to be for the amendment. Now, the next one, the question may come, we need to improve the auditing standard, but how, right? So we cannot do much on changing the rules and regulations, because the government rules and regulation or international accounting laws and standards are always going to be fixed. However, we can still form internal guidelines by some developing accounting and auditing guidelines, or something like industry specific guidelines. Let's say for mining industry, certain kind of auditing criteria, and for maybe e-commerce for certain other kind of guidelines, and also quality control reviews. Maybe for mining industry, the quality control review is super important, and maybe for e-commerce, something like that, who doesn't have physical space or storage or something like that. So for them, quality control should be taken into another considerations. Also talking about improvements, we need to consider always existing policies and procedures. And when we talk about policies and procedures, these are planned set of rules and regulations that an organization, that an audit firm has been carrying out in all over the time. Now, how can we improve them? So we need to speak with each and every auditors who have been facing any kind of those issues. And after that, what we're gonna do is like jot out their problems and then find a solution to that. Give a suitable solution that's being adopted all around the world. So this is how we can improve it. Now, when we talk about like auditing strategy, now it's like a bit of a broader term than including like improving auditing capacity or something like that. So it's about like scopes of audit required and available. It should be always like auditing should always be free from like material misstatements. Yeah, it could be an error of like $1, $2, that's fine, but $100,000, $200,000, that errors, such errors can be easily omitted if they are professionally active enough to check the books of accounts, to check the company's history and all the stuff. And also the next point that how can we remove such things, like there should be always proper evidence behind every single thing. Let's say like XYZ company says there's some stock of $100,000, but most of the like auditing firm these days, what they do is like they don't go to like physical storage and then count the stock or check the stock. However, we should be doing that in more often in a regular practice to avoid such circumstances. And also like auditors should be given all the access and control mechanism of an organization so that they can drill down to the level they require in controlling any kind of frauds. Now, the last and the most important is avoid following the checklist. Auditors, they just follow set questions where they like if something is fulfilled, they just take it. Then they tend to ignore the behavioral activities of the managers, of the board of directors, and all stuff. So they should be like more involved in an organization whenever they are doing auditing, rather than just following the books of account. Now, when we talk about auditing program, so auditing program is all those lists of procedures or actions that an auditor follows at the time of auditing for collecting facts and figures. Now, how can we improve that? It's like we need to make sure, however, that facts and figures are collected. It should have always an evidence to that, and it should cover a broader criteria of an organization. And also all the audit staff should be trained properly, effectively, and all things. Now, when we talk about the other measures in terms of like improving auditing standards, it's like professional competence. Everyone should be competent enough to follow the audit guidelines and plans and policies. Should be competent enough with its standards matching with IFRS and other stuff. They should be independent, integrity, and special training and professional judgment. These are the kind of other training activities that can be given to all the auditors to make them self-sufficient to do audits of any organizations. Now, in order to conclude our presentation, I would like to invite Tulador Bhattrai to give his final view on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Avinas, for the recommendation, and I'm going to conclude the case and the presentation. As Avinas already told that what kind of recommendation, what kind of things are necessary for the auditor to make the report true and fair view. Like we already talked about the PwC, who is missed a big massive mistake while doing the audit of the Tyco International. So such kind of mistakes should be analyzed and should be corrected at a time, so that the report cannot be misstated and report cannot be misstated, and as well as auditors should comply with the code of conduct, integrity, independence, and confidentiality. That is the most important thing, is the confidentiality. Because every auditor should maintain the confidentiality so that the important information of the company cannot be leaked out, and as well as shareholders and management should concern about the investment going to be, and any new activities are going to make by the board of directors. And the next thing is the audit firm should emphasize on their integrity and development of professional skills, so that unexpected events that are occurring in the future can be controlled today. and as well as the auditor should provide the major thing for the auditor, and auditor's report is the true and fair view. As you already know about that, that is every auditor should provide the true and fair view in the report, and as well as while concluding the report and while providing the audit report, they have to provide the disclosure. Disclosure is the things that if any kind of error, if any kind of mistake is, if any kind of evidence are not provided while providing the audit, while doing the audit, while collecting the information, that should be included in the disclosure. So by concluding this one, by this I want to conclude our presentation. Thank you so much. Bye bye.